Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monday night live National LifeVantage webinar. We're having a little bit of technology issues. I'm hoping that we can get Fred Davis up. He's our guest speaker tonight. We're having some audio difficulties, but it was already a couple minutes after 9, and I'm a punctuality guy. So I just want to welcome each and every one of you to the webinar. As I said, my name is Gabe Pearson. I'm a Master Pro 10 with LifeVantage. I've been with this company now for a little over 9 years. Literally, I think it's the best 9 years of my life. Prior to LifeVantage, I spent the last 30 plus years in the fitness business, starting back as far back as 1979 as a health club instructor making $2.13 an hour. My aspirations and dreams were to own health clubs all over this country and literally make millions and millions of dollars. Fast forward 20 years, I own 3 in Jacksonville, Florida. Certainly not complaining, but it took me 20 years to figure out, even though I owned those gyms, I was still building somebody else's dream. I didn't own the property that those gyms were on. Those guys made all the money. And I didn't own the finance company or the leasing company. So after being tired of creating millionaires, I got out of the health club business, started my own personal training company, and it quickly morphed into a wellness company. You could say that we're living the American dream for about 6 or 7 years. And what happened in this country in 2009? I was a casualty, just like a lot of people were in this country. We lost 3 six-figure contracts in 30 days, and literally, it brought us to our knees. Went from 18 employees down to 5, beautiful office with 4 admin people, to my home being the office and my wife being the admin people. It's kind of interesting when one door closes, another one opens. You just have to open it. When opportunity comes knocking on your door, and I'm hoping for some of you tonight, your universe is opening a little bit. I got invited to be a keynote speaker, so I traveled up to Atlanta. Could have said no. And I just wanted to go up there to see if I could drum up some business to try to retool my company. And after my keynote, a complete stranger walked up to me and asked me if I've ever heard of a product called Protandim. Now, folks, let me tell you something. The 30 years I've spent in the fitness industry, I've never endorsed a product. And at that moment, this one was not going to be the first. The next thing comes out of that woman's mouth retires us from the fitness industry 22 months later. And that was, would I be willing to watch a 9-minute video on an ABC primetime investigative report? And that was my hook, right? That was my, what got my attention. And I actually said this to her sarcastically. I go, you mean to tell me ABC News, they actually did a positive spin on a dietary supplement? Let me see it. Honestly, folks, I just didn't believe her. So I get back home, I watch this video, and the precise moment this world-renowned scientist, who, by the way, never even heard of before, gives John Quinones, who I've seen on that show many, many times, his blood test results. I'm elbowing my wife. I'm like, honey, that hasn't happened yet. That's history in the making. And if we can validate this, I think we're onto something. So I just completed some work with the Mayo Clinic here in Jacksonville, and I beelined to those guys as my resource. And I asked them, if you were going to put your name on a product, where would you go to validate it? When I want all of you to understand, I spent 30 years here in Jacksonville, literally starting out as a health club instructor making $2.13 an hour. Worked my way up to where I was, and the last thing I needed was to put my name on some product that would have that 30 years come crumbling down. So that was the reason for the question. And I just simply asked them, where would you go to validate a product? And not one of them sent me to the University of Google to get my information. They sent me to the National Institutes of Health. Fred, I heard something.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank goodness. Let me just finish my story and I'll introduce you, okay? So I went to the Mayo, and the Mayo guys, when they validated this product for me, I tell you what, I just checked the validity box. And I just thought to myself, if it's good enough for those guys, it's good enough for me. and I wanted to learn how to become a professional in this industry. And that's who I have on this webinar tonight. And let me just give you a little bit of information about this gentleman. He has years of experience in this industry. And not only has he reached the top of this company, LifeVantage, he has reached the top of other companies. And it was really interesting. My first trip building my business outside of Jacksonville was to his hometown in Jackson, Mississippi. And I was welcomed in his home. And we spent a couple of years hitting it hard. And I guess I didn't wear out my welcome, because they actually named a part of their home the Pearson Wing. Before LifeVantage retired him, he was a real estate developer. Today, his passion is guiding and mentoring children. And I want everyone to please welcome Elite Pro 8, Fred Davis. Fred?
Hey, Gabe, thank you. Can you see and hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you turn your volume up just a little bit?
Yes.
I can hear you, so just get closer to the computer. Well, listen, I want to just talk about, our experience together working in the last 8 years. Who would have ever thought when we started we'd be where we are today?
I know it. When you came the first time, we thought you were rich, and when you came, you thought we were rich, and
we didn't know how bad we were hurt, right?
Becky has a story about one time you came, and we were month to month on incomes, and the biggest income had gone away, of course, because we were real estate developers. And the '08 recession hits developers first. Recessions hit us first, and they hit us hardest. And some would even say we caused the recessions. But in any case, our income had stopped. So the fact that you used half and half or some sort of something in your coffee the next day, we had to put our pennies together to go to the store. So
isn't that something?
We loved every minute of it, and our area loved you. And when you first came, the company the year before had done $3 million annually, company-wide. And today, Becky and I are almost double that monthly.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Think about that. Think about that. The company's gone $3 million a year to $20 million a month. So it's a success story, and we are going to take a few victory laps.
Well, before you get started, I just want to congratulate you on your biggest year to date. I mean, it's amazing to see the growth. And I know the rock stars that you have, on your team. And, in this business, teams win, individuals lose. But you've created an incredible team. I'm just so excited for you, and Becky to be experiencing what you experienced in 2018.
Thank you. We were at a training in Metairie, Louisiana over the weekend, and the question was asked, how do you explain your growth? And we analyzed that a few days earlier because we knew what that question would be. And I looked in my back office, and true enough, we have a handful of people who are knocking it out of the ballpark. They are actually moving up 1 or 2 levels every 30 to 60 days. And that's phenomenal. But the answer to where our real growth is coming from is that there are a lot of people doing just a little bit. There are a lot of people adding a customer or two, maybe a distributor every month. And you do the numbers. Would you rather have 10,000 people doing that or 10 people who are superstars?
Right.
Obviously, the answer is you want both. But this past year has been the best. And we've been this is our 8th anniversary. The 31st of this month is our 8th anniversary. And in preparing for this, I look back and I found one of our first checks 18 days later, and it was a paper check.
Wow.
Remember, this was a company that was using QuickBooks. Remember? I didn't know that. I didn't know they were using QuickBooks. I never would have joined a company that, my paper boy is on QuickBooks.
Right.
But we found out later that we were part of a big operation, and we have enjoyed going then to 11.8 million, I think, and then the next year, remember, it was 26 or 28 million, so on. But I will tell you that what we're doing today is easier, much easier. And Becky's in the room with me now, and she would certainly agree. Much easier to do what we do today than to do it back then. Back then, we had 2 or 3 studies. I took this study. First of all, I didn't know if this was true or not, so I took this study. Okay, you remember this one?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Association's logo, and I took it. I became a customer in about 30 minutes. That was easy. If it's only $40 and I only have to do 1 month, and agreed that I might do it another month, that's what I did. And within 3 days after I became a customer, in those 3 days, I was trying to see if this was real. And that's what I would say to new people. First thing, your first job is to find out if you believe all this. The reason I say that is what you're hearing, if you're new, is you're hearing that this slows aging. You're hearing that there's a study that says it extends life. So, can you still hear me, guys?
Yes, I can. I'm just setting up a slideshow.
Okay. All right, good. So you got, don't just accept that. Be a little bit of a skeptic. The opposite of skeptical is gullible. So we think it's healthy to be a little bit skeptical. So anyway, I took this right here, took it to my cardiologist. I'd had open heart surgery in 2005. And so he looked at it. That's the first miracle. If you've ever given anything, this is 40, I don't know how many pages. If you've ever given anything to a doctor and they actually read it and call you back, and you know that that's divine intervention right there. So he called me back and he said 2 things that really impressed me. He said, I don't know anything about this, but that is the seal of the American Heart Association. And that's the gold standard. Next thing he said was, I looked in the back where it tells you who paid for this, and your company did not pay for this study. The American Heart Association and the National Institutes of Health. In other words, tax dollars were used for that study. And the study, of course, reported that the use of this product, Protandim, eliminated really the reclogging of the veins that are used in bypass and open heart surgery. So I was off and running. He said, I can't tell you it's going to work, but I looked at the 5 ingredients, and I promise you none of them are going to hurt you. So first thing, if you're new, is get the belief that I got. Because I could not have done what I did next had I not been positive that this was real. See, I had this fear. Older people are a little more skeptical, and I had this fear that I would be somewhere 6 months down the road and one of my doctor buddies would laugh at me. He would say, really? 5 herbs? Really? Slow down aging? Give me a break. So I had to be positive that I don't care who it is. If someone says to me, and it happens occasionally, someone really intelligent, someone in the medical community would say, I think you need to look at your facts. I have the boldness that comes from knowing the facts to say, sit down, let me tell you, and in your defense, I wouldn't know any more about this than you do if I didn't study it. And so there's a boldness that comes with success, but there also is a boldness that comes with the fact that you know you're right. So I'm excited. If you want to know what we did, real estate development was wonderful, okay? You remember I told you how it's glamorous, really, and it's very, very lucrative some years. That's one of the problems. We had great years followed by not so great years. And that's okay until you get older and you have a recession like the '08 recession jump out of nowhere. I had no clue that it was coming. Other people since said, oh yeah, I saw all the signs. Well, why didn't you call me? We didn't know. So I was too old to lose all of my assets. And that's what happens in a recession for a developer. So we're going to talk tonight, if you let me, on the difference between that activity income I had in being a real estate developer and the asset income Becky and I have today, because we built an asset, and an asset in our company is a person, a family who uses our products monthly. That is an asset. Assets are defined as things that generate an income. You know, a rental property would be an asset. A certificate of deposit would be an asset. Because without your activity, without your input, it creates a check for you. So what we've got today is we've got an asset income that we don't have to do anything to get. Now, the reason we keep working is we have people who have joined us subsequent to our joining who are just flying high. And we don't want them to pass us. It won't penalize us if they do. In fact, it increases our income. But the truth is, it's just a little bit of ego. So I want you to ask any questions you want, but basically all we did that February, after joining on the 31st of January, is we called people that we knew, called our warm market. And we said, you're going to look at this, and if you see what I see, we're going to have fun with it. And every time we're with you, we enjoy being with you, and we're going to look at this together. Something like that. They came over. They didn't believe it either. I said, spend 10 minutes. You're going to look at ABC, validate it. We all know about ABC's research that was done to actually put to rest his false claims, quote unquote. So that's all we did. And those 3 or 4 people said, heck, it's only $40. You know, and everybody said going in, if it's not a big commitment, I'm going to try it. And then they spent the next few days trying to prove that they'd made a mistake. And then they got a subscription for the next month too. And so here we are, how many months? What's 12 times 8 years? We're 100 months later. Becky and I got a check just a few days ago. It was deposited into our account, I think the 15th. We actually got the deposit the 16th of the month. And in that big check were dollars from the purchases of people we talked to in February of 11.
Yeah, month one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Still getting paid on month one.
Yeah, oh sure. And see, I don't care if you're a surgeon or a dentist or an attorney, what did you make last month or this month on what you did in 11 or 12 or 13? So that's the secret to, and I realize why a new person, new to the industry, would say it's not possible for one couple in Mississippi to have a business almost twice as big as the whole company was 8 years ago. And then there are people like you and Bill whose numbers are multiples of ours. And you got to admit it's a legitimate thing to be skeptical when you hear that. How could Becky and Fred know 20, 25, 30,000 people? Well, we don't. And if you look into how this works, we knew a few people who knew a few people, and so on. And so it's a very legitimate income. There is no dollar paid except as a commission for a bottle purchase. So Becky and I are excited about all of our bottles.
And folks, what I want all of you to really kind of understand the enormity of what Fred's talking about. He has achieved the rank of Elite Pro 8, which is a $200,000 a month in revenues business. So if you multiply that out by 12, you know, he's got, $2.5 million business, but his volume is pushing towards that next rank. He's closer to the next rank than he is the 8th rank, and that's the 9th rank, which is $500,000 a month. And he's getting really, really close to that. So they've generated this asset that he's talking about, did something one time and, 8 years later, still getting paid on what he did on month one. And that's what he's trying to explain is the difference between linear income versus residual income, or what we call passive income. Linear income is you went to work today, you worked 8 hours, you got paid at 8 hours, and it's done, right? How is that working out for everybody? So, the whole business model is changing in this company today, and it's called a gig economy. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, Fred, but I wanted to make sure everyone knew the enormity of your business.
Right. And the point here for a new person or someone maybe who's not even joined us, who's just thinking about it, your question might be, I've got a good income. Do I really need to add something else to it? So let me ask you, there's a litmus test I like to give people. Is the income that you have dependent upon the activities that you do? Obviously, the answer is yes. I'm a lawyer, of course. I'm a surgeon, of course. I have to be in the operating room. So my question would be, again, get back to the question, do I really need an asset income? As long as you can be active and you have a high income from activity, then you don't need it. But if you ever think there's a possibility that you will not want to get back on the treadmill the way you are now and get up at 6:30 and go do what you do, if you ever think there might be an opportunity when you have 9 grandchildren, as we do, and one of them has a dance recital, another one has a t-ball game, another one is in school play, and they go from California to North Carolina, and you don't want to miss anything, do you think that you're going to be able to do that if you have the activity level in your work that you have right now? And then there's also the possibility that because of health or injury, some are not able to be active. And so my question to you surgeons and you multi-million-dollar people, you people who earn over $1 million already each year, what would happen if you took the summer off this year? Would it affect your standard of living? And if your answer is, well, of course, I took 3 months off, it will affect my, then you need an asset income. And people say, well, how much do I need? I don't need as much money as I'm making right now, because when I'm retired, I won't have a cleaning bill. Or let me tell you something, don't go down that road. Are any of you going to be okay with an income less than you've got now? Let me tell you, when you're retired, I won't tell you what we almost need to buy an airplane. We buy airline tickets, either going to California or Durham, North Carolina, or wherever we want to go. We've been to Italy, we've been to Greece, we've been to Florida, we've been to Mexico, all that's this year. Retirement is not going to be fun if you're having to look at your checkbook every time you spend money. So do 2 things before you get off this call tonight. Decide whether or not you need an income that's not dependent upon you getting out of bed. Decide on whether or not you need an income that's not dependent upon you being in town if your granddaughter is performing in a play. And if you rethink it and decide you need a plan B, look at ours. It's the most wholesome one. And in addition to all this security, we get the benefit of phone calls, not infrequently, where people say something to us like, in tears now, you can hear the emotion. They say, my mother recognized me this morning. Now, that's not a health claim, but what that person meant was their mother, who had not recognized them, now does. You make of that what you want. My point is, we get to be in the helping profession. Those of you who are in the helping profession, you nurses, that my wife is a nurse, a retired nurse. She is working harder, she says now, because her one patient is me, and I may be more demanding than the others. So there's a lot of sense to figuring out, do you have a problem before you open your ears to listen to our solutions. Solutions, when people don't really feel they have a problem, really kind of bore people. So you find out if you have a need for an asset income. If you do, and you have some other way, we did the math on our income based on the going CD rates. And we would have to have $21 or $22 million in the bank to have the asset income we have from LifeVantage. Now, if you
well, can you repeat that again? I want to make sure people chew that and swallow it, because I don't want that to go in one ear and out the other. That is a powerful statement.
It is. Most of us think of having a lot of money in the bank and getting an interest check. And what I'm saying is, for us to get an interest check from the bank that equals what we're getting from LifeVantage every month, we'd have to have $20 to $22 million in cash. And so my point is, if you have a system that will get you 8 years from now to the point where you have that kind of income, then go for it. If you don't, you need to listen to us, because we are not the big people on the totem pole. I would say that we're way up there, and we're really grateful, but there are people who are actually outperforming us everywhere.
Well, I know you. I said at the very beginning when I was introducing you that you've had a lot of experience in this industry, and I've got the slide up right now, and this shows the corporate office in Sandy, Utah, which is just outside of Salt Lake City. Just
right.
give the viewing audience a few bullet points on what attracted you to this company.
Okay, first of all, I told you I had the need. So I was looking for a way to replace that development income. So the first piece there is I had the need. So then I was going to analyze the opportunities. I had been involved the last recession. Believe it or not, there was a recession before you guys were born in the late 80s, early 90s. And my development business stopped still then too. Not as dramatically as this time, but at that point, I was open to something. And that's when I learned about network marketing. And I was not receptive, except that I was desperate. So anyway, I joined a company. It was good in so many ways, but the one flaw is that it was owned by an individual. And every time that individual changed his mind about something, it changed our income. And it turns out that this particular guy, brilliant guy, had a great work ethic, and he did not believe in residual income. He did not believe in your being able to work hard and then retire and still get paid by him. So he ultimately changed it so that the people who are with him today, who stayed, still have to work hard every week and every month to get their big check. So the one thing I would tell you is, if you're looking at network marketing or any investment of time and energy in a company, make sure that it's public. Public companies cannot change the rules midstream. They have a board of directors. They have shareholders. Gabe and Jill and Becky and I and hundreds, maybe thousands of distributors are actually shareholders. We bought the stock. The stock, Gabe, you may remember, was 27 cents a share in January of 11. Being a good investor that I am, I waited till it went up to about $4 before I bought it. But first of all, the answer to your question is, look to see that the company has a solid ownership of thousands of stockholders, and that it is every quarter it is scrutinized by the Securities and Exchange Commission, so that when you hear someone say we're doing 20 million a quarter or 20 million in sales a month, something like that, you don't have to wonder if we're lying to you. You can go to our ticker symbol, LFVN, and you can see the financials from 2003 till today. And I don't know what the stock closed at today, but it's probably in the 13 range, something like that, $13. So first of all, publicly owned. Secondly, you have to have a product that has a large market and a growing market. Now, large and growing, those are essential. If you're in a market that's shrinking, I have friends who were in the music business. They made albums. People don't even know what records are now. There are no, well, vinyl records are maybe coming back, but people aren't making big money. Make sure that your market is huge and that it is growing. The other thing is make sure you have some sort of exclusivity. I have friends who jumped into the CBD oil business. You know, the part of cannabis that's not a hallucinogenic, that actually, you know, doesn't make you high. They're so excited about it. Well, guess what? Everybody in the world, there are hundreds of companies now in just a year that are doing that. So if you don't have some exclusivity, you're always going to have to lower your price. So I would say that would be important. Gabe, I don't know how far you want me to go with this.
Well, no, that's great stuff. I mean, you know, it's consumable. That's very important. I love the fact that we're an international company. We're projected to be in over 100 markets. And folks, right now we're in less than 20.
Yeah.
So there's nowhere to go but grow.
Yeah, the consumable part is essential. One of my first business deals was with IBM. And IBM was a great company. But you could have a $200,000 a month in sales, and the next month those customers had the hardware that they bought, and they didn't need another $20,000 computer for life or for a long time. So it is the fact that we have a monthly subscription, Gabe, you're right, that assures us that we have an asset. Otherwise, we would just have a commission.
You mentioned QuickBooks. You know, we watched the company grow from 3 million in annual revenues to 200 million in annual revenues. And the person that was running the ship at that time was operating on QuickBooks. And I think maybe he hit the proverbial glass ceiling of where he could take the company. And I think what needs to be mentioned tonight is who's behind the helm. Our CEO, Darren Jensen, not only has 26 years of experience in this industry, and there's only been 13 companies ever reach $1 billion. He's responsible for 2 of them reaching $1 billion. But more importantly, he was voted amongst the top companies in this industry, their CEOs, for our CEO to mentor them in this industry. So there's a CEO roundtable, and he's spearheading that. And what he has done in the last 3.5 years is recruited the Super Bowl team. We've got the best executives in this industry. And he's taken this small little NRF2 company, and he has built it into this mega nutrigenomic company. And so it's going to be really exciting, Fred, to experience the next wave, so to speak, that 200 million to 500 million growth plate.
Well, yeah, that is exciting. Our leader knows where he's going because he's been there.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'd like to talk about this. Talk about the hair system, Gabe.
Well, I've got this slide up right here, and the only reason why I've got it up is because, folks, what I want you to understand, you're looking at 4 products on the slide, our activators, and that's what Fred was talking about when he held up the American Heart Association Circulation Journal. We have an Omega Plus, and we have a probiotic, and what's really interesting, this product is literally 1 year old, 1 year old. And out of 3,900 different products in 74 countries, this product, what we call the Vitality Stack, was rated #1 in the health and pharmaceutical category. So you're looking at the best product in the world. So from an opportunity standpoint, everything that Fred looked for in a company, what if that company had the #1 health and pharmaceutical product in the world? Would it be easy or hard to build a business?
Yeah.
That's what we have. And what we just launched at our last academy was our hair product. You've got a shampoo, conditioner, and a hair emulsifier, which supports hair growth. It's the first NRF2 hair product out there. So we just entered an $85.5 billion industry to our repertoire of products. So it really makes it easy, to be able to have no competition and having an ABC primetime news piece as our advertisement, and all Fred and I have done for these last years is point, guide, direct people to that validation piece, the ABC primetime news piece, and then put them on the phone with somebody smarter than us. And if you're a guest on this webinar tonight, that's all you have to do too. It's pretty simple to have, you know, those steps right there to be able to get to a top of a company.
Yeah. I have people make fun of me when I start talking about the hair system, because those of you who know me know what is not under this cap I'm wearing. So I do think, though, it'll be fun to use the sample of this particular hair system, because it's a sample that's inexpensive, and you can say to someone, if I give you this and you get a couple of shampoos out of it, will you tell me whether you look better or not? I will promise you this, it is the cleanest product you'll ever take. In other words, you're not putting toxins in you. And just do that. And another thing I like to tell people, you know, I'm not a scientist, but I'm buying something, and I want you to look at why I'm buying it. It's an 8-minute news clip. And if you want to buy it, great. If you don't, great. But at least you'll know what Becky and I are excited about. And the idea is not that you do that or that you do any one particular thing, but that you do something. We have work. We don't want you to get off the call tonight and think, well, those people in Mississippi got lucky. We work, and we worked hard for, and we still work, but we just don't work as hard. And that's the idea, isn't it? To create some momentum so that you don't have to work. I'll tell you, you do the math. When Becky and I first saw this, I was 65. You do the math, 8 years, I'm 57. And that's the way this works.
Yeah. Tell them how important, Fred, timing is. I know in your industry, real estate, it's location, location, location. But in this industry, help them understand the enormity of timing.
Well, that's critical. Fortunately, we are where we want to be in that. When you do any sort of survey, less than 1% of our country has heard of Protandim, has heard of LifeVantage. Now, the reason that's important is there are people making a lot of money with companies like Microsoft, Amway, Avon, Nu Skin. There are big companies where people are making a lot of money, but the truth is, if you were to join Amway today, everyone that you talk to would have already said yes or no at least once or twice to Amway. Great company, but is your opportunity there? During momentum, which is that growth phase for all companies, if they're successful, they will ultimately go into a growth phase called momentum. And during that, whether it's 2 years or 10 years that their momentum lasts, 80% of the wealth that will be created by that company during its lifetime happens in that 1, 2 to 8 or so year window. So the good news here is that window has not opened yet. It's cracked. And what you want is you want to have enough boats in the water, people who are working with you to let people know about this, so that when the tide comes, it will raise all boats. And people will know about Protandim, they'll know about LifeVantage, and it will be the go-to science, because there is nothing in medicine, there's nothing in prevention. And know now in medicine that there are 3 different categories of growth. Obviously, there's treatment, and that's the biggest single part of the health industry. The next one is research. That's big, but the fastest growing of the 3 pieces to healthcare is prevention. People have waked up. They know they would rather do what they can now to prevent cancer, for example, than to wait and get the new, better chemo. You know, it's easy to understand that, but for so long in medicine, we focused on treatment instead of how not to get it in the first place. So we are the leader in prevention. If you will do nothing else, look up NRF2. It is the focus. It's cell repair, it's cell health, and that is the future of all prevention. It is also becoming, NRF2 is becoming the future of treatment. I was at an American Heart Association meeting on the West Coast this summer, and the speaker there from the American Heart Association, an MD, talked about his new immunotherapy for, in his case, it was for lung disease, for lung cancer. And everybody got excited because it's working until they found out it costs, I think it's $15,000 a month. So let me ask you, is that going to save a lot of people? Our product is $40, $41, our lead product. That's less than $500 a year. And it has been tested against products that are $50,000, $55,000 a year. And so we have science. The timing, Gabe, is that we know about something that the world does not know about it yet, and we have a way to turn it into an asset income.
What I like to share with people, because a lot of people have never heard of the S-curve, but they've heard of the term ground floor opportunity. Well, I heard that many, many times when I was in the fitness business, but not until I got into this business did I actually look up the definition. And the definition of ground floor opportunity is when a company has 125,000 distributors in its organization. And our company has less than half of that right now. So we are literally in the infancy stage. We're not even branded yet. And to kind of help you to understand the piggyback on what Fred was talking about, these category creating products that are backed by peer-reviewed science and by these impressive journals and patents. If you look at this slide right here, you see our company down at the bottom. And these are companies that have the length of time it took them to reach 200 million. Now, some of you might recognize some of them on there. Mary Kay. It took them 23 years. Why did it take them so long? Well, first thing comes to my mind is how many makeup companies are there out there? I mean, my goodness, there are a dime a dozen. You look at Herbalife, how many vitamin companies are there out there? You know, you look at Amway, you know, products that you can buy in a grocery store, 13 years. Look what it took LifeVantage. Took 4 years to get to 200 million. And then look at the length of time it took those companies to hit $1 billion. I mean, it took a couple of decades, you know, in some instances, close to 3 decades. And because of having no competition, and it's backed by science, and we're creating a new category. And I wrote this down for everybody today. I said this, in the next few years, everyone will be using activating products rather than supplements. And what excites Fred and I to no end, we're the first to know about them. Imagine being first. We are pioneering a completely new paradigm in health, a technology called nutrigenomics. Unbelievable to think that they have figured out how to turn your body back on rather than supplementing it. And if that doesn't excite you, honestly, I think nothing will. So that's the reason why Fred and I jumped on board with this incredible opportunity. Now, Fred, I know that you spent a lot of years in commercial real estate. Can you just kind of compare traditional businesses? Like, what would it cost today to open up a commercial real estate development company as opposed to a startup with our business?
Well, in real estate development, you won't be surprised to know that you have all the expenses of having an office and the utilities and the degree, the actual certificates and the permits. But in addition to that, anything that you develop involves buying the land first and then spending money to turn it into something more valuable. And when you do that, you're not talking about 100,000 or 200,000. You're talking about one of our projects, I think, was 9 million, and you borrow that. So you go to the bank, hat in hand, with your business plan, and you put your signature on millions, and then you go to work to make it so that you can pay that off. So our business, real estate development, if you had told me that we could be in business, up and running, fully functional for $1,500, I would have wondered what you were smoking. So you bring up a good point. One of the great things and one of the not so great things about our business is that it's not expensive. Therefore, when you get involved with us, you don't have to do anything. You can afford, most people can afford to not be successful. If they paid $1,500, they've gotten probably $1,700 or $1,800 worth of product for that purchase. So, and they're going to use them. So that when we tell you it's not an investment, it's not a company where you can lose anything. Sometimes people
We're treated that way.
they don't feel it's as much value. I will tell you this. This is an opportunity to make what you want of it. And people ask me, what do you look for in people? And all I look for is, or what I really want to find is someone who persists. So if you know, tell everybody about this, because even if they're not going to be productive as distributors, they need the product. But if you get someone who has a character trait called persistence, then you have something. And we have people, part of the expansive growth we've had in the last 18 months came from someone who just, and you know who I'm talking about, Gabe, she just wouldn't give up. And she kept doing it. A lot of times she did it wrong. She'd figure that out, and then she'd do it another way, and finally it hit. And the truth is, she found one person, and they saw what she saw. And when she moved up, that person has consistently been at least half of her organization.
Yeah.
More than half of our organization. So when people ask me, what are you looking for? I'm looking for one person.
Yeah, and folks, the persons plural that he's talking about did it in less than 1 year. So this person is pushing that Pro 8 rank where Fred is, and she's just been involved a little over a year now. Yeah. So in this industry, the only way that you fail is by not quitting. And Fred was just giving you a story of someone that fits that mold to a T. You know, if you look at the slides right here, you can get involved in this business for as low as $350. You're buying $300 in product at 20% below wholesale. So your risk is not millions in signing that personal guarantee that Fred was talking about. Your risk is a $50 starter kit. It's a business in the box. Or if your family's a little bit bigger and you want to come in on the gold pack, you're getting a little bit better, a return on your investment. You're buying $600 in product at 25% below wholesale. Fred and I came in on the platinum pack because our mentors told us, if you want to make the most amount of money for the least amount of work, that's the business plan you want to go with. And at least what I didn't know, Fred already knew. It just creates the right behavior. When people dot their I's and cross their T's, the next thing they're going to ask you is, how did you come in? And they will come in the same way that you do. So if you want to crawl to where Fred and I are, you can get the 350 pack. If you want to walk to where Fred and I are, you can get the 650. If you want to sprint there, get the 1250. There's more volume, there's more money, and you create the right behavior. I think we're pushing the limit on time, Fred. I know you talked about the asset, versus the linear income. Any 1 or 2 minute send off that you want to give everyone on our compensation plan?
Yes. There's a lesson to be learned from one of my kids. One of my kids called me about 3 weeks in, and he said, "Dad, do you know that your distributorship is an asset?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I know that. It's making money." He said, No. I mean, it's the kind of asset that is going to be handed down to your children." I said, you rat. He said, "So how are we doing?" And every month on the 15th for a long time, Rick would call and say, "Dad, how are we doing?" And I finally said, don't get excited, kid. I'm taking the pill. I'm getting younger. I'm not going to. My point for mentioning that is all of us, we want to be successful, but more than success, we want to make a difference. And we want to leave the world and the family better than we found it. So whatever you create with us, for example, if something happens that I'm not with us next month and Becky goes on without me, her income may even be more. If when Becky and I are both gone, our kids will, on the 15th of the month, think sweet thoughts of us. So I want you to know that what you're building does not evaporate with you. And if you're a surgeon or a lawyer or a school teacher or a policeman, when you're gone, your activity income is gone. So I want to end with that, Gabe.
I mean, what a great point. And folks, this is, Fred talked about the company being publicly traded, so this is our income disclosure statement. It has to pass muster through the SEC, and the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, as well as the Security and Exchange Commission. And some of you might not know the terms that I was talking about, but the achievement that Fred and Becky Davis have accomplished, if you look on the far left side of under paid rank, they've achieved the Elite Pro 8 status. So their annual earnings is, $6,256,000, monthly average $22,000 a month. So you can see the excitement, and what's fascinating, folks, and he's been threading this message for the last 45 minutes. What's fascinating is he doesn't have to show up and create another $22,000 a month. It's residual. He doesn't have to show up. He gets paid again and again and again. If his business increases in revenues, so does that monthly average. So if you're looking, for a plan B, wouldn't it be nice to have a second or third income to help out? Maybe pay off some debt, save for your kids' college, maybe pay your kids' college off if they've already been in school, or just simply to get ahead financially and not always having to say, "I don't have the money." So if you're not on pace to retire, and unfortunately in this country, most people aren't. This is something that will really, really completely change your financial future. I mean, you heard Fred's story and my story. We were on the wall of worry. And what we did was we saw an opportunity. And what both of us did first, before we jumped on board, is we got validation. You know, he got validation from doctors. I got validations from the Mayo Clinic. And once we check that box, you know, we just, you know, really just followed this simplistic, duplicable system that we have. So if you're teachable and coachable, looking for a secondary source of income, get with the person who invited you. And first and foremost, thank them for inviting you to this webinar, because you have the right list of ingredients of the type of an individual that we're actually looking for. We're laying down a foundation, folks, on what's about to happen in this country in the next 3 to 5 years. And I promise you, the next 3 to 5 years, everyone will now know what nutrigenomics is, the activation of pathways, biohacking the aging code. And right now, we're first. So consider yourself a pioneer. We're literally digging the ditches, laying the groundwork right now. So it's extremely, extremely exciting. Get with the person who invited you, and after you thank them, tell them that you want to get yourself a LifeVantage ID number. And at the very least, if you need more information, get yourself on our Vitality Stack, and then any kind of information that you need to get to make that decision, we'll get that for you. So Fred, thank you so much for your expertise. I can't wait to see you in a couple of weeks in Charleston. We're gonna have a great time together. Folks, thank you so much for being on the webinar tonight. We will see you back next Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time, same meeting ID number. With that said, this is Fred Davis and Gabe Pearson. Thank you so much for being on with us tonight. Good night, everyone.
Good night.